Gosh darn it, Kypreos, you didn't have to go out there and stir the pot this hard. We're going over onto the Toronto Star, because what Nick Kypreos did a week ago was write an article about how the Leafs GM question is answered. Now, it's Auston Matthews' turn. This, of course, is an article about the Leafs. Like he did with Auston Matthews, Brad Treliving will quickly need to understand if Matthews' heart is still in it when it comes to playing in Canada. That's what the headline reads, and when it comes to what Kypreos goes out there and talks about in this piece, it's quite obvious to guess where things are going with this write-up. It talks about Toronto, it talks about Auston Matthews, it talks about what the future has in store for this team. But towards the end of the article, Nick Kypreos, in very traditional Nick Kypreos fashion, goes out there and writes in his Kipper's Corner piece. This is where he collects a lot of information and conversations from around the NHL and throws it into the end of the article just to say he wrote about it. And there was a very interesting idea tossed around there regarding the Leafs and their goaltending. Now, we've already talked a little bit about the Maple Leafs and their situation in between the pipes. We had made the entire conversation known about Carter Hart, Philadelphia Flyers goaltender, and whether or not it would be worth it for Toronto to exhibit some sort of a trade there, whether or not you believe wholeheartedly in Ilya Samsonov and Woll, how these guys are going to be able to do over the next few seasons. If you really liked what you had seen this past season, how exactly does that affect the way you see them next year? Samsonov still needs a contract at the time of recording this audio, and because it's not certain, there is a conversation to be had about goaltending changes as to whether or not that would actually be worth it. And so, after talking about Carter Hart, I thought that would be it. You know, that's kind of the goaltending conversation. There are maybe a few other names. I guess Connor Hellebuyck is one that everybody is going to toss around there because he's apparently on the market now. But when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs and their goaltending, the one name that I absolutely did not expect there to be any conversations about whatsoever is the name that Nick Kypreos brings up here in this article. So let's go over onto the Kipper's Corner part of this piece that we have. Link is going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and read the entire thing. You want to read what Kypreos has to say about Matthews and the future in Toronto, but Kipper's Corner towards the end has our scoop that we want to go out there and look at. It talks about Brad Treliving, it talks about Sheldon Keefe, it talks about Mark Giordano, Jason Spezza, Shane Doan. This is where the article gets interesting. Two top-caliber goalies who could be readily available by the NHL Draft this June are Jeremy Swayman of Boston and Thatcher Demko of Vancouver. Unlike Demko, who has 3 years left, Swayman would need a new contract as a restricted free agent. Now, that doesn't necessarily link Demko to Toronto, but with the entire article being Toronto-focused, I mean, yeah, this is gonna be about the Leafs, is it not? Thatcher Demko to the Toronto Maple Leafs from one Canadian organization to another, from one organization that's been used to failure with sky-high expectations and a bunch of pressure to another organization exhibiting pretty much the exact same thing. Yeah, okay, I'm not really too sure where this makes sense here, but let's entertain the idea for a little bit, shall we? Thatcher Demko is the Vancouver Canucks elite caliber goaltender, and I'm going to say elite, not franchise, just because this past season was a little bit rough for him. 27 years old already, which is kind of nuts because he was drafted in 2014. I still feel like Thatcher Demko is this new up-and-comer. I don't know if any other Canucks fans feel that way, but it's very strange hearing that he's already 27 years old. But he is signed till the end of 2025-2026, making $5 million apiece, and if he actually plays like the way that we know he's capable of playing, that contract's gonna be a steal. He's in his prime right now, .901 save percentage in 32 games played, although the first parts of the season were not really great to him. He wasn't at full capacity for his health. He had a surgery, he came back, and he looked really good towards the end of the season. Demko, though, last year in 64 games played had a .915 save percentage. That's also the same percentage he had in 2020-2021. Not to mention the 2020 bubble playoffs where he had 4 games played and had a .985. And a .64 goals against too. This was literally like the best save percentage season we have seen out of any goaltender ever in like one series or whatever it was. I don't know. Thatcher Demko is phenomenal when he is on his game, and the only thing that could really slow him down is his own injuries. But that's neither here nor there because he's apparently healthy now. When it comes to Demko and the way he has performed, though, this is a guy that can backstop you in a way that Ilya Samsonov, Matt Murray, Joseph Woll, and some of these other guys cannot. And I hesitated a little bit to say cannot because, you know, when a goalie gets hot, a goalie gets hot. All goalies play pretty well when they've gotten the momentum. But for Thatcher Demko, when he's at his best, he's amongst the best in the world. And his 75% capacity is already better than most of the NHL, in my opinion. So this really is just a strong goaltender that can carry you to wins. He can win you series. He can steal you games. And that's kind of how the Vancouver Canucks have remained competitive, despite being so bad defensively over the past few years. It's been pretty bad in Vancouver, all things considered. And so when it comes to the idea of the Toronto Maple Leafs making a trade for this guy, okay, I can understand why they would target him. He's cheap, he's good, and, I mean, he's very talented. But at the same time, there is no world in which the Vancouver Canucks think about trading Demko away. They don't believe in Artur Silovs that much for this to even be muttered in a sentence on the Toronto Star. That Thatcher Demko, of all people, may be available on the trade market, much less for a Toronto Maple Leafs team to go out there and snag him up. Like, no, there isn't a world where that's happening. The Canucks don't have any other options in goaltender unless you really believe in Spencer Martin, which, after this season, I don't know if a lot of Canucks fans do, unfortunately. Artie Party, Artur Silovs is not ready yet, and the Canucks aren't going to go out there and shell out big money to a guy on the free agent market who is going to cost around the same as Thatcher Demko anyway. Like, there's no reason to even believe this is an idea. And for Toronto, I mean, this just kind of feels like another one of these things where it's like, okay, yeah, there's an article written about Demko going to the Leafs. Let's talk about Demko and the Leafs again, because that's what was written about. Yeah, I know, I'm kind of feeding into the problem, aren't I? But if we had to go over a hypothetical trade scenario, what is the return looking like for a Thatcher Demko trade? This is the point where I kind of lose you. I have no idea. And the reason for that is because when you come to talking about players that are so extraordinarily valuable for their teams, it's tough to really put a price tag on that. It's tough to say, okay, yeah, Thatcher Demko is this good, so he's going to get this pick and this player and this prospect from Toronto, because no amount of value from a package in the Maple Leafs organization could make up for what it is Thatcher Demko is able to do today, what he's going to be able to do next year, what he's going to be able to do every single game from now until the end of 2026 at $5 million apiece. Demko is so valuable, he's so good, and he's so cheap for what it is that he provides that you're not going to make a conceivable package that would make sense here. And the Canucks are not going to be in a position to shop him away. So there's no real idea that says, yeah, okay, there's going to be some sort of a trade offer. And the Canucks are going to think about it, and they're going to like it, and they're going to accept it. Unless there's some superstar caliber player coming over from Toronto, which we know that's not going to happen anytime soon, then I don't really foresee this being an idea worth talking about. But then again, I just made an 8-minute YouTube video about it, so surprise, surprise, go figure. Either way, though, link is going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and read Kypreos' article. There's a bunch of other stuff with the Maple Leafs. It's all the Maple Leafs, and then at the end, it's like, yeah, Swayman and Demko could be available on the trade market. But you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think that I interpreted this article incorrectly? It doesn't necessarily say in the piece Demko to the Leafs, but it does say Demko could be available on the market. And because this entire article is Toronto Maple Leafs focused, it talks about Matthews, it talks about Triliving, it talks about Shane Doan, Giordano, Spezza, it talks about everything under the sun in Ontario before bringing up Thatcher Demko at the end. Was I kind of incorrect in perceiving the way this article is framed? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, let me know your thoughts on the idea of Demko getting traded to the Leafs in the first place. What's a conceivable package? Do you even think a conceivable package exists? I don't think there is, but do you think otherwise? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.